Hi, mister, how are you? My name is Daniel Flores, and I'm going to present to you my lesson plan number 12 from my second term report. The topic is past modal verbs of deduction. The first part from my lesson plan was my objectives. First, my listening objective was understand what past modal verbs of deduction is. The speaking objective was ask and answer. Ask and answer questions using past modal verbs of deduction. And the next one, the reading objective was just recognize the past modal verbs of deduction in a paragraph. And the writing objective was form statement with past modal verbs of deduction. The next part of my lesson plan was my methodologies and strategies that I used. Okay? I've got two methodologies and two strategies. My two methodologies that I used, the first one was flipped classroom high tech. That means that students do problem solving exercise in class. And the other methodology that I used was student-centered approach to learning. What does it mean? It means that students assume a much more active role in the learning process. Not just the teacher talks. Okay? The students have to collaborate in the learning process. My two strategies that I used were, the first one was anticipation guide develop. That means that students think about what they really knew about the topic. Because some students, they always think, oh, I really knew about that, but I didn't know what was the name. But they knew how to form some topics of the structure of some kind of new topics, but they didn't know how was the name. Okay? And the second strategy that I used was the description. As the name says, they are used to demonstrate knowledge of a concept. Okay? This was the part about methodologies and strategies. In the next part of my lesson plan was the anticipatory set. In that part, I write an incomplete sentence on the whiteboard of Zoom. We know that now these platforms are very useful for us nowadays in our virtual classrooms. In my case, I use Zoom. After writing an incomplete sentence on the whiteboard Zoom, have the students work together to help you to complete it, and who can help to make sentence sense will be congratulated in front of the classmates, because it is important that all of the students feel confidence when they answer correctly a question. Okay? It is important that we as a teacher give support, give them all the confidence that they really need. Because some of them, they are shy. So we've got to consider those kind of students. Okay? That's why this anticipatory set is what I used. The next part of my lesson plan was the main teaching input. In this part, I present the topic. I played a video. That contained the past modal verb deduction explanation, and then I write the question on the whiteboard. When something unexpected happened to us, we start to deduce. What could have happened? And I introduce the topic with this question. Then I ask, is modal verbs in present or past using the sentence? That's my question to them. Then I ask, what tense is used after what? And they got to think about what is the tense after what? The word what. We as a teacher, we've got to elicit answers from the students. Obviously, focus students' attention on the meaning, the past modal verbs of deduction that is used to make guesses about something that happened in the past, and how certain we are that something happened or did not happen, based on what we see or what we know. Okay? So this is what we got to consider at the moment of the explanation. Okay? In order to try to cover all of the topic and try to handle the concentration of students, because in this new learning process, in the virtual way, we've got to always be always have to be aware of the students, like, oh, what are they doing? Okay, I've got to watch all of my screen in order to help, because some students they don't show verbally, like they don't tell you that they didn't understand, so you can read their expressions. So that's why we always have to see them, their expressions. Okay, this is the part of main teaching input. In the next part, the modeling part, I asked the students what they notice. What did you notice about how I use the past modal verb deduction? I made that question, and I got to listen at students' name what they realize. They have got to create the rule. They have got to realize the structure. As I told you at the beginning of my lesson plan, they really need to be more active during the class. So I review if they missed grammar talked, and I taught to get through to the tough part. Okay? That's why I use this modeling. In the next part, the guided practice. In the guided practice, I present on the screen Zoom session the past modal verbs of deduction worksheet in order to practice with the students, because it is important that we practice with them, and we've got to let them write the answers on the screen of Zoom, obviously with our teacher guidelines. This activity obviously will be more challenging if they do it by their own. But in this guided practice, we need to help them a little bit because, as the name said, it's a guided practice. In the next part of my lesson plan was the independent practice. In this part, yeah, they got to try to do it by their own without my help or without our help, as a teacher. In this part, just I give instructions. Students write down 2 sentences using past modal verb deductions, using maybe must have, may have, might have, can't have, or couldn't have. They've got to write those 2 sentences using this past modal verb deduction, and then they've got to write it down on their notebooks. After that, I sent a link by some direct message, and after that, after students complete the exercise online, they got to send me back their results by making a screenshot. And this is for measuring the knowledge learned. If we don't receive an evidence, how can we realize if they are not learning or if they are learning? Okay? That's why I use this in this part, this kind of exercise. In the next part is the assessment. In this part, I really like this part because it is a way that the students can realize by themselves that they are understanding the topic and they are feeling more confidence in order to help another student that maybe is not feeling in the same way. In this part, the assessment, I tell students to write on the whiteboard zone just one sentence that contain its explanation. This is the opportunity for students to try to understand more the topic mentioned. Because I always tell my students that the best way to learn something is teach. This is the best way. You learn something, after learning, teach to another. This is the best way. And that's why I use this kind of assessment. And I'm always the monitor because they really need my guidance. Okay? And now in the next part and the last part from my lesson plan was review quickly before ending the class. First, it is important to congratulate the students on all their hard work. They got to feel happy that they count on their teacher. Then ask them to tell me in their own words how past modal verbs of deduction are used. Okay? And what kind of situations does it describe? What tense can we use to form it? And I create some fun examples before leaving the session. Okay? It is useful. Believe me, it is useful because I have seen this in my classes. This is my lesson plan number 12. that was about past modal verbs of deduction. I hoped that you liked. Have a nice rest of the day, mister. Thank you. Bye bye.